Our family estate is suddenly starring in its own disaster movie. The main warehouse is basically a giant bonfire and the servants are running around like headless chickens. Someone yells for more people to help contain the flames. They are tossing buckets of water as fast as they can, but the wind is picking up, making the whole situation 10 times worse. My dad, Arc Leader Jang, finally arrives. He looks absolutely horrified. It is total chaos with sparks flying everywhere. The fire just keeps raging. Dad starts screaming for me, grabbing random servants to ask where my mom and I went. A servant tells him we took shelter in the annex, away from the worst of it. He gets exactly 1 second of relief before a burning support beam snaps. The whole structure collapses with a deafening crash right in front of them. Everyone scrambles backward to dodge the falling debris. His guys pull him to safety just in time. Dad just stares up. The night sky is completely choked with thick black smoke. Meanwhile, I am safely tucked away in a quiet room with my mom. I was terrified, but she hugs me tight and promises Dad will handle everything. She looks down at me with this incredibly gentle expression. She pats my head and wipes away my tears. She says everything will be fine, and honestly, the fire does eventually stop, leaving our estate looking like a war zone the next morning. Afterward, the local monks come over for some spiritual damage control. Dad sits down with Great Master Jumo, who calmly remarks on how unfortunate the fire was. The old monk spins his wooden prayer beads. He has that classic, unbothered Manhwa mentor vibe going on. Dad remembers that Jumo reads fortunes. The monk drops a bomb, saying he took a peek at my destiny. Dad immediately leans in, hooked. He starts sweating. He probably pictures me getting crushed by falling timber or something equally awful. But Jumo just looks at him. He hesitates, watching the servants clear the burnt wreckage outside, saying he does not quite know how to put it into words. Dad begs him to just spit it out. He demands to know if I am destined for an early grave. Jumo assures him I am going to live a very long life. Then comes the plot twist. Jumo compares me to a broken jar. He says no matter how much wealth our family brings in, my weak fortune will cause it all to leak out. Dad's eyes go wide. He stands up in shock, realizing I am destined to ruin the family. Jumo just lowers his head and drops another prayer. Dad grips the table. He completely loses it, cursing the heavens for screwing over his precious late-born son. I guess I am the villain in my own origin story. But wait, there is a loophole. Dad perks up instantly, while Mom is busy teaching me how to read. Jumo explains the fix. If I am sent away to live a dirt-poor life with a high monk, it effectively patches the metaphorical hole in the jar, stopping the ground from cracking beneath our family. Dad asks if he seriously has to send away his only heir. He freaks out, thinking I have to shave my head and become a monk forever, which would end our bloodline. Jumo just laughs at him. He says I only need to stay until I am 18. Once my character solidifies, the curse breaks completely. Dad looks like he just dodged a bullet. Jumo volunteers to find the perfect master to take me in, and Dad thanks him profusely. But the monk deflects the praise, saying it is all due to Dad's accumulated karma. Dad bows his head in deep respect. Jumo goes into full spiritual mode, and starts preaching about virtue and wisdom. Dad closes his eyes, fully sold on the idea. It all sounds incredibly profound right up until reality hits and the peaceful mountain vibe is shattered. Cut to me screaming my lungs out in the dirt while two guys try to drag me away. Mom is sobbing, asking how Dad could abandon a baby. He just tells her to hold it together. I am throwing a full tantrum, kicking the servants like a tiny ninja. Mom is devastated because they are sending me to Master Jang Mack of Shaolin, a guy infamous for his terrible temper. And Jumo coughs awkwardly and tells her not to talk trash about a holy man. Dad tells Mom to just suck it up and wait. It is only 10 years. Exactly 10 years. I keep screaming for her as the servants finally lift me off the ground. They literally toss me into the back of a wooden carriage. I brace myself in the doorway, putting up the fight of the century. But Dad yells at me to stop being difficult. He lays a heavy guilt trip on me, shouting that the whole family will die if I don't go. No pressure at all. I stop fighting. The door slams shut with a heavy thud, and I instantly regret it and start banging on the wood, demanding to be let out. Jumo just sighs outside, completely exhausted by the drama. I press my face against the barred window, crying. I watch my parents bow to the old monk. The horses take off, leaving my home behind in the dust. Fast forward through a long, miserable trip deep into the wilderness. The carriage drops me off at the bottom of a mountain and just rolls away. I am standing there all alone. The tears just keep coming. I angrily wipe my nose. I look pathetic, like a wet stray cat. I realize all my struggling didn't change a single thing. Time to face the music. I turn and look at the massive stone staircase in front of me. It goes way up into the clouds. Standing at the very edge of the cliff above is a stern-looking man. I stare up from the bottom of the steps. I glare upward, entirely unimpressed. The reality finally sets in. I am stuck living on a rock with this scrawny old monk for the next 10 years. So here I am, banished to a tiny dirt patch in the middle of nowhere. My father dumped me here because apparently my cursed fate is going to drag our entire wealthy family down into the mud. The big solution? Dump the cursed kid on Master Mack for 10 solid years. If I run away, my whole family dies. Father, mother, even Warren, who used to sneak me the good snacks. So my hands are tied and I just have to survive a decade on this rock. That means I need to get on Mack's good side, which already feels like a boss fight I am massively underleveled for. Sitting around moping isn't going to fix anything. Time to take the initiative. I look around the barren yard, hoping to spot a beginner quest or something useful. Perfect. A broom. I grab it and start aggressively sweeping the dirt with loud heavy strokes. I have to show the old man I am a hard-working, totally non-cursed kid. He pauses his vegetable picking to throw a sideways glare at me. He completely shuts me down, pointing out that raking leaves on a mountain is completely pointless since they just pile right back up. Then he hits me with a classic old master trope, warning me that trying to impress him won't get me martial arts lessons. I try to tell him that wasn't why I was doing it. He just cuts me off, calling me a spoiled merchant's kid and doubling down on his refusal to teach me Shaolin secrets. Okay, that actually ticks me off. I march right up to him and shove the broom back and tell him straight to his face that I do not care about martial arts. That actually shocks him. I stare him down, totally serious. What I didn't know then was that Jang had isolated himself in these mountains for 30 years just to avoid dealing with people. He basically rage-quit society and even the Shaolin temple gave up on him, taking disciples. The abbot Great Master Jumo had to literally guilt-trip him into taking me. He claimed the old man would die lonely otherwise. Jang fought it of course, but the abbot pulled rank and called it a fate handed down by Buddha himself back in the present. He just laughs at me. He assumes the abbot owed my rich dad a massive favor and dumped me here on some secret training mission. He yells that my parents definitely sent me here to learn martial arts no matter what I say. He turns his back, offering to teach me a few basic moves just so I will pack up and leave him alone. The absolute nerve of this guy. I snap back that I never wanted to come to this dump in the first place. I yell that I am literally just here because of a 10-year curse. That stops him in his tracks. Tears start falling and I tell him if I don't stay, everyone I care about dies. He glances back, finally getting the picture. I am stuck here, exiled from my own home. He probably thinks my parents are terrible people using me to buy Shaolin favor, completely misunderstanding the actual supernatural threat. Instead of comforting me, he just barks at me to stop crying like a baby. I furiously scrub my face with my sleeve. Then he demands I change out of my clothes, claiming they are annoying him. I am wearing the plainest stuff my mom could find. He grumbles that they are too flashy for the mountain. I try to argue, but he just tells me to shut up and hurry. Later, I sit down to a bowl of raw, green leaves and unseasoned tofu. Is this a joke? Mack casually mentions the temple rule against using fire for cooking. He gives me a whole lecture on how cooked food makes your temperament fiery, which ruins a monk's devout meditation. I stare at him, completely deadpan. Meanwhile, I am scratching my skin raw. He gave me these rough, worn-out rags, expecting me to survive in them for a decade. He totally ignores my suffering and tells me to eat. I cannot hold back anymore. I ask him point blank why he gets angry all the time if he eats this magic cooling food every day. He genuinely looks confused. I remind him he spent the whole morning swearing at me and accuse him of feeding me garbage out of spite. He starts sweating, completely caught off guard by the logic trap. He clenches his fist, clearly not used to anyone talking back. He probably thinks I am mocking him, but then he looks at my face and realizes I am just an innocent kid asking a genuine question. Sort of. He awkwardly recovers, claiming we eat raw food to save firewood and live frugally. Nice save, old man. Then, I immediately offer to go gather the dead branches off the ground so we don't harm the living trees. A vein pops on his forehead. He scrambles for another excuse, saying rotting wood enriches the soil so we can't touch that either. I act totally amazed and ask if gathering wood means I am stealing food from the plants. He stares at me wondering if I actually bought that ridiculous interpretation. I add that I can't go gathering anyway because moving around will wear out my itchy rags before the 10 years are up. I give him my best blank stare. He is absolutely seething, realizing he is getting out-debated by a child. He shuts the conversation down and orders me to eat. I take a bite. It tastes exactly like chewing on a bitter lawn. When I complain I am still hungry, he claims feeling full leads to laziness, which is a sin. Classic cheapskate monk logic. That night is pure hell. Eating nothing but raw weeds gives me severe stomach cramps. I am curled up in a corner, gripping straw just to get through the pain. Young Mack is wide awake listening to my suffering in the dark. He sits up, definitely reconsidering his life choices right now. He knows the raw diet is brutal for a kid, but he refuses to compromise, probably hoping I will just break down and quit 2 weeks past like this. I spend my days starving on a wooden bench, too weak to even forage. My stamina bar is completely empty. Young Mack finally checks on me, yelling about where I've been. For a second I actually think he is worried I got eaten by a bear. He zeroes in on my scraped hands and my shoes, which are basically falling apart. His eyes go wide, but it is not out of pity. He starts yelling that I am ruining my clothes and forcing him to buy new shoes. When I say I was just looking for food, he says I am only hungry because I move too much. He goes on an insane rant claiming that having an upset stomach just means I am not hungry enough yet, and that survival is all about mindset. He tells me enduring this terrible life builds merit like grinding for low-tier XP. I am barely conscious. Listening to this guy philosophize while I literally starve to death. It hits me. He is never going to actually feed me properly. If I rely on him, I am a goner. He tells me to stay put while he heads out again. Then his own twisted logic gives me an idea. If moving makes me hungry, I just won't move. I smile, settling into a comfortable cross-legged pose. I will just sleep through the next 10 years. Young Mack leaves, definitely unsettled by my sudden creepy smile, yelling at me to remember his lecture. The morning sun is shining beautifully, and honestly, the only logical thing to do is sleep. But of course, my grumpy new roommate disagrees. He stands over me, demanding to know why I am not up. He starts yelling, calling me a spoiled brat for lounging around while the sun is blazing. Hey, I am just following his rules. He told me not to move unnecessarily, right? So, to keep from starving, I am simply putting myself into standby mode. He totally loses it. He grinds his teeth and lectures me about how laziness and conserving energy aren't the same thing, claiming my sleeping just makes me a beast wasting food. Wow, harsh. And the irony? He's literally calling me a leech while stuffing his own face. He tells me to stop messing around and storms off. A heavy thud echoes as he slams the door, leaving me sitting there wondering how I'm supposed to survive the next 10 years. Geez, what am I even supposed to do in this place? A little while later, I peek outside. He's just sitting out there, staring at a book. He rolls his prayer beads in complete silence. I watch him through the crack in the door. I finally walk up and ask him why he's not banging a wooden bell or chanting out loud like normal monks do. I actually like listening to them chant. He gives me this deadpan look and asks if making noise out here in the deep mountains actually matters. He claims he reads with his eyes and strikes the bell with his heart, which sounds cool. But let's be real, it just looks weird. Naturally, he gets annoyed again. He scolds me, saying that making a racket won't bring him closer to enlightenment. It'll just make him hungrier. Oh, so that's his game. The old man is just insanely stingy, skipping the chanting so he won't burn calories and have to eat more. He tells me to quit bothering him and go back inside. I sigh and trudge back. It is so incredibly frustrating. No matter what I do, I get yelled at. But just as I grab the door handle, it hits me. Wait, if the old man gets mad at everything I do, what if I just completely copy him? He can't get mad at me for doing exactly what he does, right? Flawless logic. Alright then, challenge accepted. I decide to stalk him to see exactly how he manages to move so little and never get hungry. As night falls over the Shaolin temple, the evening bells ring out. While all the other monks are busy sweeping and praying, I wake up in the pitch dark to find the old man already getting up. And before I can even blink, his bedding is folded perfectly. He moves like an absolute ninja. He notices I'm awake. He tells me to clean up my mess and heads out the door. The sun isn't even up yet. Where is he rushing off to? I quickly grab my blankets. I try to fold them as fast as I can so I can shadow him. Okay, mine looks like a crumpled napkin compared to his. I wonder if folding it perfectly saves calories too. Whatever. I'll practice my origami blanket skills later. I dash outside. I spot him walking down a forest path. I tiptoe behind him, darting from tree to tree, just keeping my distance. He reaches a massive boulder. With a soft tap of his foot, he just leaps into the air like gravity is a mere suggestion. He lands perfectly silently. Whoa, that was straight out of an action movie. He's so fast. I guess this place really is the legendary Shaolin after all. He sits perfectly still on the peak of the rock, so the grumpy old man actually has skills. This must be his secret morning routine. Time to copy his exact moves. He keeps his eyes closed. I close my eyes too, determined to uncover whatever cheat code he's using to survive without eating. Meanwhile, somewhere else guys are throwing punches and the abbot is praying. But out here, we are just sitting. For a whole hour, he hasn't twitched once. I crack one eye open. Is he just sleeping? He lectures me about laziness, yet here he is doing absolutely nothing. Just as I'm about to call him a hypocrite, my stomach decides to let out a massive, thunderous growl. Oh no. He cracks an eye open and dryly asks if I'm protesting. Busted. I scramble to deny it. He scolds me for being a terrible spy and making sounds like my intestines are twisting. I shout back that I can't help it because I'm starving. He sighs, complaining about not getting any peace. Then he takes a deep, heavy breath. Wait a second. I just saw this weird white mist come out of his mouth and go right back into his nose. I immediately call him out on it. He stares down at me. I can practically hear him debating whether it's worth explaining his secret martial arts tricks to a kid who isn't even his student. I give him the ultimate wide-eyed, innocent look. He breaks. He figures just telling me the theory won't hurt as long as he hides the actual chant. He explains that he's practicing a secret Shaolin energy method called the I Ching Jing. He says that white mist I saw is called Qi, the foundation of all things in the universe. Qi, like the smoke from a tobacco pipe. He goes on this mystical tangent about how Qi is everywhere. And if you absorb it, you live a highly energetic life. Wait, an energetic life without food? It all clicks. This is why the old guy never eats. He's just been secretly snacking on air this whole time. I smile, finally understanding. I am an absolute idiot. Why have I been suffering from hunger when I could just breathe my way to a full stomach? I just need to steal his technique. Then I can finally gloat about being full. He clears his throat loudly, snapping me out of my genius revelation. He tells me I can hang around his morning practice, but I absolutely cannot touch anything or interfere. I casually agree and stroll away. He seems almost disappointed that I don't have more questions. Honestly, he probably wanted to show off some Taoist magic trick if I begged, but I don't need his magic tricks. I just need to figure out how to eat the air. I sit myself down and mimic his posture, vowing to master this invisible buffet. So there he is, just sitting on a cliff like he's downloading universal Wi-Fi, just calmly exhaling a little mist like it's absolutely nothing. After he wraps up his morning routine, he heads back down the trail. Meanwhile, I'm hiding behind a tree trying out his little meditation trick. The old monk is secretly impressed, because apparently most kids tap out in 10 minutes and I'm pushing 2 hours like an absolute unit. My legs are completely dead though. We're trekking back and I'm dragging myself behind him like a zombie. I'm literally vibrating from muscle fatigue. How is he totally fine? Look at him. He's not even walking. He's basically gliding. Not a single bob or weave. Just completely smooth. Is this guy secretly a ghost? A boss-level spirit? He barks at me to hurry up. Yeah, I'm coming. Then I notice something weird. His shoulders stay perfectly still and his feet are barely grazing the dirt. Bingo! It's an energy-saving mode. He's doing the bare minimum to keep his hunger bar from dropping. Honestly? That's genius. He's practically hacking his own stamina. Back at the hut, it's finally time to eat. I never paid much attention before, but now I'm watching his every move like a hawk. Zero wasted movement when he scoops his rice, it's terrifyingly efficient. Back home, the servants practically ran around in fast forward. This guy is pure calculation. He catches me staring, of course. He scolds me to focus on my food. Busted. I quietly shove food in my mouth, but he knows exactly what I'm up to. Yeah, old man, I'm copying your homework. After breakfast, it's study time and I just plant myself right in front of him. I give him the biggest, dumbest smile. He has absolutely no idea what to do with me. He sighs heavily and asks if I even understand the gibberish I'm reading. He goes into this whole lecture about it being an advanced ordination manual. Buddy, I was halfway through Confucius back home. I just play the innocent card, scratching my head and pretending it's too hard for me to read alone. He completely stonewalls me. Just straight up tells me I don't need to read it since I'm not a monk. At least I can follow simple instructions and play the obedient kid. He's officially annoyed now. He realizes he actually has to find me some normal literature. Sorry to ruin your peace, master. He really thinks I'm just going to tire myself out and quit. Spoiler alert, I won't. Though, honestly, my legs are killing me again, just putting the book away. But hey, moving like a snail means I'm not starving yet. Small victories. Wait, where is he going now? Nap time? I peek outside. Nope. He's out in the yard striking a martial arts pose. Deep breath in, followed by these slow, sweeping hand motions. So naturally, I slide right in behind him and mirror his stance. He looks back like I just spawned out of thin air. He finally realizes I'm going to shadow him all day. I just hit him with another cheeky grin. He sighs and lets me try. Let's see if I have the stamina for this. He drops into a low, complex stance. Okay, this is way harder than it looks. He lifts a leg and I immediately lose my balance, flailing like an idiot. His movements are so agonizingly slow it's impossible to copy without tipping over. And down I go again, right into the dirt with a heavy thud. Perfect. The old guy actually smirks. He's absolutely enjoying this. He finally drops some lore, explaining that just copying the moves blindly is totally useless without the internal training. I immediately call him out on his hypocrisy. I thought we weren't supposed to move so we wouldn't get hungry. He shoots back with some lecture about blood circulation and keeping the body from stiffening up. Then he tells me there's no way a brat like me can learn Shaolin arts just by watching. He says it's not about just moving slow, it's about concentrating and feeling the muscles activate. Basically, you have to tap into some inner UI to monitor your own body. If you do it right, he claims you can sense every single tiny hair moving. Why the hell would I want to feel my own hair? He facepalms, sighing like dealing with me is a 10-year penance. Which, to be fair, it is. He pulls himself together and goes full biology teacher on me. Bones, blood vessels, meridians, the whole package. Great. Just thinking about all those organs working inside me is making me hungry again. Then he drops the ultimate golden rule. How to get the maximum effect with the least amount of effort. Cut out all the useless movements and focus your energy only on the essentials. Wait a second. That's exactly what my dad used to teach me. Generate the maximum profit with a minimum cost. It's literally business 101. A merchant and a Shaolin monk operating on the exact same logic. Crazy, right? I still don't fully know what I'm doing yet, but I'm definitely going to figure this out. Meanwhile, Master Javmek is secretly impressed again. He fully expected me to be crying and running down the mountain by now. Plot twist. He decides if I keep this up, he might just secretly teach me some real martial arts. Game on. Meanwhile, down at the main temple, things aren't looking so great. Autumn is sweeping in and the courtyard is covered in dry leaves. The temple's accountant, let's call him Brother Bean Counter, is having a minor crisis as he stands outside the storage room, completely baffled by the missing supplies. Apparently, they had a record number of tourists this summer, but the food donations have mysteriously been cut in half. Yep, my family's bad luck curse is basically acting like a financial black hole, draining the temple's wealth right under their noses. Expenses are shooting up everywhere and they just can't figure out why their money is leaking away like water from a cracked pot. Back up on the mountain, winter hits hard. Master Mack is trying to read, but my violent sneezing keeps interrupting his zen. I am curled into a tight ball on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. At home, I had the furnace cranked up so high I was sweating in my sleep, but here, there is no fire and no winter clothes, leaving me to turn into a human popsicle. He thinks I am just being stubborn for not begging to go down to the lower quarters. Honestly, my brain is too frozen to even form a complaint and he finally realizes I might actually die. With a heavy sigh, he gets up, he rushes outside to check the old furnace. While I just keep violently coughing my lungs out on the icy floor, I am completely delirious, muttering apologies to my mom as I beg her not to abandon me. He finally gets a fire going, sending thick smoke out the chimney. The flames blaze up, instantly warming the freezing hut. He sits beside me, wiping my sweaty forehead with a wet cloth, grumbling about how the abbot dumped me on him. He really hates dealing with people, let alone a sick kid. But despite the warm room, my fever is spiking and my cough is getting worse. He debates running down to the main hall for medicine, but decides against it to avoid awkward questions about his terrible parenting, so he just sits there, staring at me helplessly. I keep crying out for my mom in my sleep, which clearly hits a nerve. He curses his luck and suddenly rips my clothes open. I am barely conscious and totally confused. Suddenly, Master Gaunlaw goes full Super Saiyan. He decides to use his own internal energy to save me, even though it will set his training back several years. A glowing white aura starts swirling around his torso. It looks like a scene straight out of Dragon Ball. And since my meridians are closed, he has to forcefully strike all my pressure points to circulate the energy. He slams his glowing hands onto my back. He injects 10 years worth of his precious Jing energy right into my system. It hurts like absolute hell, and I scream in pain. He just holds me steady as the power surges through my veins. He knows this might make it harder for me to learn other techniques later on, but blames me for leaving him no choice. He hits me again with another massive wave of power, making me scream until my throat goes completely raw. The sound echoes out into the freezing mountain night. By morning, the heavy snowstorm finally passes. I am out cold, and Master Mack tells my unconscious body that I basically just swallowed a human cheat code. I now have a body stronger than most adults. I will not get sick for decades, and my injuries will heal incredibly fast. He sacrificed 10 years of relentless training for this, but surprisingly, he does not regret saving my life. He gently checks my temperature and takes my pulse. He realizes I have gotten frighteningly thin since I first arrived on the mountain. His stern eyes actually soften. For a guy who spent 30 years avoiding people to cut off worldly attachments, he is definitely catching feelings. He looks at me sleeping peacefully, filled with a sudden sense of pity. He finally understands why masters in those old martial arts legends risk their lives for their disciples. He admits that if anyone else had taken me in, they probably would have pampered me. He clenches his fist, clearly annoyed at his own soft heart. He tries to justify his actions as part of Buddha's path of wisdom. He closes his eyes and attempts to meditate away the stress. Meanwhile, I am just dead to the world, having the best sleep of my life. 3 days later, the sun is shining brightly. The snow starts melting around the hut, and I finally wake up from my coma. I sit up and tell him I slept well, noticing my cold is completely gone. I feel like I just chugged 5 energy drinks. My head is incredibly clear. He just stares at me dumbfounded, realizing I have absolutely zero memory of the agonizing operation. I just sit there smiling like a clueless idiot, totally oblivious to my new superhero stats. It is early morning in the mountains, the kind of freezing dawn that usually makes me want to stay buried under blankets. But out here on the rocks, sitting cross-legged in the snow, something is completely different. I breathe out a cloud of white mist. The air is freezing, but honestly, I don't feel cold at all. Usually, the chill distracts me. Today, my focus is razor sharp. Time to fill my lungs with that sweet mountain air. Master John Mack watches me from his own rock. According to him, my near-death fever actually gave my body a full system reboot, cleansing all my pressure points. He thinks it is a miracle people would pay a fortune for. Me? I am just happy I am not shivering. I take a sharp breath in, and let it out in a steady stream. I place my hands on my knees, palms up, and slowly inhale through my nose. I hold it, calculating the exact timing. It takes about 80% of the time I spent inhaling to let it all out. Meanwhile, John Mack is having a minor existential crisis. He actually considers teaching me real martial arts, thinking I'd make a decent warrior. Then he remembers the mountain of red tape involved. Taking me as a lay disciple requires the abbot's permission and endless paperwork. He would have to explain his reasons all over again. And let's be real, he hates talking to people. Plus, he convinces himself my physique isn't meant for combat anyway. He sweats, trying to clear his mind. He tells himself it is a huge problem he keeps having such distracting thoughts about a kid he supposedly doesn't care about. A few days pass, and I keep up the routine. Suddenly, I feel a strange tingling in my nose and stomach. Is this what it feels like to gather energy? My clothes rustle as the air flows around me. It actually worked. Copying the old man is finally paying off. Now I can gather chi too. Time to eat it all up until I am full. Take that, starvation. Up above, Mack stands frozen against the morning sun. He wonders why I look so hyped. Then he senses the strange energy swirling around. He actually starts sweating, wondering if I just learned Dantian breathing completely on my own. He jumps off his rock, convinced I couldn't possibly do it without formal training. He lands with a heavy thud, stumbling slightly. Losing 10 years of internal energy to save my life left his body heavy and sluggish. He is clearly struggling to adapt to his own weakened state. He clicks his tongue, annoyed at how pathetic he feels, and he blames it all on me, obviously. He walks over and tells me to stop for now. I huff, annoyed. I just needed a little more to feel completely full. But I listen, springing up and jogging back to the hut. Inside our little snow-covered cabin, things feel different. I test out a stance. My movements feel entirely new, like I unlocked a secret character upgrade. I can faintly feel the breeze brushing against every single hair on my arm. It is basically spider sense. Mack watches my newfound coordination. He realizes his energy spread through my body, making me sensitive to chi by practicing reverse energy cultivation. My muscles and bones are naturally adapting for martial arts without even trying. He tells me not to overexert myself since I don't actually know any real moves. I just smile and tell him I just need to not be hungry. He stares at me, completely stunned. I literally mastered advanced internal cultivation just to overcome my empty stomach. He sweats again, realizing my absurd willpower might actually mutate my entire physique. He is pretty sure this isn't normal. Time keeps moving on the mountain. Spring turns to summer, bringing butterflies and fresh flowers. Yang, Mack and I sit outside in the warmth, studying. I spend my free time foraging for wild leaves and crushing fresh raspberries in my hands. Honestly, I look like a feral goblin eating raw vegetation, but I couldn't be happier. Autumn scatters dead leaves across the yard as we continue our daily reading. I practice my stances in the crisp air, feeling lighter and faster every single day. Winter returns, burying the mountain in snow. Yang, Mack and I sit on our familiar rocks. He exhales a steady stream of mist into the icy wind. I sit perfectly still in the freezing storm. No shivering, no fever, just calm focus. The heavy snow blankets the peaks, then gives way to lush green cliffs once more. 3 years pass like this. Eventually, an old friend arrives at the Shaolin Temple gates. It is Great Master Jumo. The gatekeepers greet him respectfully, asking for his Dharma name. He introduces himself and mentions he is looking for Guang Yun. That is young Mack's actual name, apparently. The gatekeepers panic instantly. Anyone who casually asks for the head monk's old friend is definitely a major VIP. One runs off to notify the higher-ups, while the other scrambles to escort him inside. They quickly lead him through the heavy wooden doors. Jumo steps inside the temple grounds. As they walk past the red walls, Jumo stops, noticing something off. He looks up at the massive stone pagodas, completely shocked. They are crumbling and covered in vines. He demands to know why they haven't been repaired. The gatekeeper nervously explains they actually tried several times. Jumo glares, not understanding how the great Shaolin Temple could let this happen. The truth is simple, really. The legendary Shaolin Temple is currently broke. Head monk Guang Yun is out here apologizing for serving subpar tea to his old buddy, Great Master Jumo. Apparently, even their cheap stash is running dry. Jumo is totally speechless. Look at this place. The pagodas are literally crumbling, losing their usual imposing glow. Jumo notices the outer halls haven't seen a fresh coat of paint in ages. The outer courtyard gets all the tourist traffic, so they have to scrape together pennies just to maintain it. But the inner courtyard? A total ghost town. It's been abandoned for exactly 3 years. 3 years. That specific timeline hits Jumo like a truck. Yeah, you guessed it. 3 years since a certain cursed kidney got dumped on their doorstep. He starts sweating, desperately trying to rationalize it. Surely my legendary bad luck couldn't bankrupt the entire Shaolin Temple, right? I wasn't even taken in as a real disciple, just a temporary ward. He desperately convinces himself it's a total coincidence. Feeling guilty anyway, Jumo offers to bail them out using his own temple's funds. Guang Yun just laughs it off. He casually drops that their farming yields have actually been fantastic every year, so fruit isn't an issue at all. Jumo swallows hard, realizing the terrifying truth. A bountiful harvest, but endless unexplainable expenses. It's exactly what my fortune predicted. Like pouring water into a bottomless pit. Panicking, Jumo immediately bails on the tea. He announces he's going to the temple hall to perform 10,000 prostrations. Guang Yun is stunned. That's some extreme jujitsu Kaizen-level penance. Jumo can't shake the crushing guilt that he single-handedly ruined Shaolin by bringing me here. Guang Yun tries to stop him, telling him he's way too old to be doing CrossFit-style bowing. But the old man just speed walks away, leaving the head monk completely confused. Over at the main hall, Jumo is already on the floor desperately praying, begging that my black hole fate won't completely wipe this place off the map. He keeps bowing to the massive golden Buddha, repeating that it must just be a coincidence. The statue just smiles calmly. If a giant chunk of gold could sweat, it definitely would be right now. And he bows again, pouring his soul into it. Fast forward a whole year. Guan Yun finds him at it again. He scolds Jumo, warning the old guy he's going to destroy his joints. Jumo basically tells him to mind his own business. It's been 4 years since I arrived, and Jumo thinks they just need to grind more merit to balance up my curse. Guang Yun sighs as his stubborn old friend leaves. He can't exactly an elderly monk to the ground to stop him. But hey, silver lining. Jumo's crazy dedication actually inspired a bunch of young monks to volunteer for the 1,000 bow routine. Guang Yun watches them. Genuinely touched, he realizes Shaolin owes Juma a huge debt for boosting the temple's morale. They vow to work just as hard so he won't have to come back next year. Meanwhile, miles away from all that temple drama, back at our little mountain hut, Master Jungmuk is staring at me. Oh yeah, I'm 15 now. Finally outgrew the top knot. It's breakfast time, and the old man is looking at our table like it's a ticking bomb. At first glance, it's just the usual boring greens and rice. But look closer. Everything is eerily organized. I'm talking pixel-perfect alignment. Even the grains of rice are meticulously arranged. He points a shaking finger at the tray. I casually explain that it's just amaranth from the garden, veins popping. He demands to know why I trimmed the leaves into perfect little geometric squares. Honestly, I just thought it would look nicer this way. I only removed the inedible, bug-eaten parts. Totally efficient, right? He snaps at me, asking if I don't have anything better to do than line up rice grains one by one. I tell him it's super quick once you get the hang of it. Plus, the old man has been complaining about indigestion lately. How can anyone digest food if it's not arranged symmetrically? It's just basic logic. He throws his hand up, totally exasperated. He gives up arguing, probably realizing he can't win against my flawless system. I just give him a polite, innocent smile. After forcing down his perfectly aligned meal, he heads outside to stare at the mountains. He's muttering to himself about how strange things feel lately. He wonders if it's the tense atmosphere from Shaolin's financial crisis getting to him. He lets out a heavy sigh. Nope, that's not it. He paces around the dirt, plagued by this weird, uneasy feeling he can't quite pinpoint. Every single day up here is exactly the same. So why is he so anxious? He exhales deeply, rubbing his face. Standing by the hut, he's totally frustrated, trying to figure out the source of his stress. I peek through the cracked wooden doors, keeping a close eye on him. Seriously, what is wrong with this guy? Is something bothering him? Bro, it's me. I am the stress. John Muck finally figured out why he'd been feeling so frustrated lately. He yelled at me, realizing my obsessively neat bed arrangement was basically driving him crazy. It wasn't just a preference for neatness. I was officially a neat freak and it was breaking his monk-like patience. But honestly, that was just the start of his headaches. Lately, he started paying closer attention to how I moved. He swore I never slacked off in our 7 years together. Sure, if you count doing the absolute bare minimum as hard work while sweeping, he watched me glide across the dirt with soft, sliding steps. He stared at me like I just glitched through the Matrix. He completely freaked out over my footwork, noticing my soles barely touched the ground and my shoulders stayed perfectly still. He knew I was copying him, but he couldn't figure out when I actually got good at it. He called me over in an absolute panic, knowing this high-level footwork required serious inner energy control. He started sweating bullets, worried people would think he secretly taught me Shaolin techniques without permission. I just smiled and told him I finally figured out how to move exactly like him. Young Muck's brain pretty much short-circuited. He tried to rationalize it, telling himself I was just an ordinary kid with no concept of ki, so I couldn't possibly be doing real martial arts. He demanded to know when this started. I told him it just clicked today and casually mentioned I hadn't been feeling hungry lately. That little detail hit him like a ton of bricks. I reminded him of his own advice, don't waste energy on useless things if you want to avoid hunger. So I just put my mind to getting maximum results with zero effort. Peak efficiency, like a speedrunner exploiting a physics glitch. He stared at me, completely speechless, asking if I really just moved minimally to avoid getting hungry. I mean, yeah, obviously. He let out a weak scoff, classic, young Muck. Then he held out his hand. I had no idea what he wanted, but I went along with it as he grabbed my wrist with a solid grip. He closed his eyes, focusing deeply. Suddenly, this intense aura started swirling around us and a surge of energy pulsed right into my core. A massive burst of white light erupted from my center. The old man practically had a heart attack. He sensed at least 20 years of internal energy built up inside my body, turning me into a walking battery. He was panicking because he never taught me breathing techniques and I never had time to secretly train. He desperately tried to do the math, realizing the only time I could have trained was during his early morning energy collecting routines. When he asked how I breathed every morning, I just told him the truth. Air is everywhere, so I took in as much as I wanted. If there's one thing I consumed a lot of in these mountains, it's air. Free food, right? The realization hit him hard. For 7 years, I'd been doing his high-level breathing exercise just thinking I was eating air. That time, he forcefully opened my energy pathways with his own inner strength, permanently unlocked my senses. My consistent, air eating, unknowingly stacked up a ridiculous amount of inner strength. I asked him why he looked so serious, wondering if I was sick or something. He brushed it off and brought up the footwork again, asking how I knew to imitate his steps. I just broke it down for him. No shoulder movement, stepping lightly on the toes, looking far ahead. I demonstrated with a quick slide, effortlessly gliding right past him. Fast and smooth, he just let out this hollow, broken laugh. He realized my steps weren't the combat-ready Shaoan evasion technique. I was literally just trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible without sweating. Mack was left standing there, completely unable to process how I accidentally became a martial arts prodigy out of sheer laziness. Later that night, back at the cabin, I was out cold, but Mack couldn't sleep. He just watched me, realizing my body control rivaled most second-generation Shaoan disciples, and I was only 15, moving like a seasoned veteran. My accidental daily practice had literally transformed my body. With a soft puff, the candle blew out, but he knew this wasn't entirely a good thing. Sure, I was fine now, but his eyes narrowed in the dark as he thought about the future. If I kept hoarding energy and using it recklessly, I could literally explode into chi deviation. Total system meltdown. He debated teaching me the proper way to handle it, but he couldn't just hand out Shaolin's secrets without permission. He sighed, realizing he'd need the abbot's approval to formally take me in. Looks like my peaceful, air-eating days in the mountains were about to get a lot more complicated. Meanwhile, back at the main temple, things were finally looking up. Supervisor Jang reported that donations from lay disciples were steadily rolling in again. The financial crisis was practically over. Head monk, Yun, was beyond relieved. The last few years had been a massive headache. He chalked it all up to Great Master Jumo's 10,000 prostrations working some serious karma magic, but Zhang, ever the accountant, wanted to build up their assets to prevent another disaster. He didn't want to get caught off guard by a bunch of angry pilgrims again. Yun shot that down immediately. We're monks, not merchants. There is no shame in being broke. Still, he appreciated the hustle. As for me, I was out in the woods, living my best life. I used to barely move just to avoid starving, but with the temple's pantries full again, I could actually enjoy a snack. These mountain apples hit differently. My master, Jiangmuk, had been acting super weird lately. Just /U 2026 weirdly quiet. If the old man would just use his words, I wouldn't have to sit here guessing what's eating him. Whatever. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me. I nearly choked on my apple. I scrambled back, heart hammering. Who the heck was this guy? He just chuckled like a grandpa who forgot to take his meds. I didn't sense him at all. Not even a rustle of leaves. Like an anime assassin, he just appeared out of nowhere. I quickly dusted myself off and introduced myself as Jian, the kid living with Elder Jiangmuk. That got his attention. His eyes went wide. I asked if he knew the old man. He smirked, noting my oversized raggedy robes were a dead giveaway. Turns out, this old guy had been stalking me for days. He even knew I was picking fruit earlier. Then he dropped a bomb. He casually mentioned I used something called dragon claw hands to grab the fruit and that my footwork? Apparently, it was some legendary technique called phantom shadow steps. He assumed Jiangmuk had been secretly training me, which was hilarious because the old man literally refuses to teach me anything. He was honestly more shocked that I survived living with someone as notoriously strict as Jiangmuk for 7 years. Tell me about it. The guy is a walking nightmare. He scolds me if I even breathe wrong. I finally asked who he was to talk smack about my master so casually. He introduced himself as Master Hong-O. Apparently, he outranks everyone, even the current head monk. I awkwardly clarify that I'm just crashing at Jiangmuk's place. I'm definitely not his disciple. He looked deeply confused. I mentioned Jiangmuk had also mumbled something about phantom shadow steps, but I had no clue what it meant. Hong-O looked like his brain just short-circuited. Those two techniques were Jiangmuk's absolute pride and joy. Since I never formally learned martial arts, the math just wasn't mattering for him. He reached out and asked to see my hand. The second we touched, a massive surge of energy exploded between us. My body instinctively fought back, pushing against his pure internal chi like a brick wall. He was completely floored by the sheer amount of energy I had stored up. First Jiangmuk, now this guy. Why is everyone so obsessed with my hands today? I nervously asked if I was in trouble or if some terrible curse was about to hit me. He just gave me this cryptic, Yoda-like answer. If it is a calling, then it is. Super helpful, thanks. I reminded him I only had 3 years left on my sentence here. That threw him off again. 3 years? He asked, leaning in close. I ended up spilling my whole tragic backstory, how my cursed fate forced me away from my family for 10 long years, all starting when I was just 8 years old. He just stood there in absolute silence. The realization hit him like a truck. I had achieved all of this, the footwork, the energy, everything, just by blindly imitating Jiangmuk. I could practically hear his thoughts. This kid is a total monster. He mumbled something about me being a rising star if someone just taught me the basics. Apparently, I was a 1 in 10,000 rare talent. He muttered about destiny and how my dad dropping me off here was actually a genius move. I reminded him there were only 3 years left on my 10-year sentence. He just told me to put my mind at ease. Living with a cranky guy like Master Jangmuk for 7 years was apparently building up serious karma points. He told me Buddha wouldn't ignore all that merit I had accumulated. Wait, I was accumulating merit just by surviving my master's terrible personality? That sounded like a pretty good deal. Then he dropped the classic old guy line, telling me to keep our little meeting a complete secret from Jangmuk. I pointed out I couldn't outright lie to my master. He just smiled and said omitting the truth wasn't technically lying. With a quick bow, he decided it was time to leave. We exchanged our formal goodbyes. He had this weirdly satisfied grin on his face. I was just happy to have a normal conversation for once. Then the old man just zoomed away into the forest like he had a jetpack strapped to his robes. If I could walk like that, I would never be late for dinner. Meanwhile, at the head monk's room, Master Hongo decided to crash a private meeting. He barged in and immediately started grilling head monk Huang Yun about my martial arts training. The head monk laughed it off. He assumed it was normal for me to pick up a few basic moves after living here for 7 years. Hongo was not having it. He basically accused them of hiding my skills on purpose. He dropped the bomb that I already knew 2 of Shaolin's top secret techniques. Both the head monk and Jangmuk looked like they just saw a ghost. Jangmuk completely panicked, pointing out I wasn't even a real disciple. Huang Yun just rubbed his face in stress. This was clearly way above his pay grade. They tried to figure out if Jangmuk was secretly teaching me behind their backs. Hongo was completely convinced because he saw me use the moves with his own eyes. The head monk promised to look into it, looking like he wanted to retire on the spot, but they knew Hongo didn't just come here to tattle on me. The old man laughed. He knew he couldn't hide his real motive from them. He flat out demanded the Jade Buddha staff, which is basically the ultimate VIP access card of the temple. They looked at him like he just asked for the nuclear launch codes. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a sword. The head monk flat out refused. Giving him the staff meant overturning the temple's oldest rules. Huang Yun looked dead serious. He was not going to break tradition for some random kid. The 2 old masters engaged in an intense stare down. It felt like watching 2 anime characters power up before a fight. Go Eun-young finally realized Hongo wanted the staff's authority to make a massive exception to the rules. Turns out there was a strict prohibition placed on Master Jangmuk years ago. He was permanently banned from taking on any disciples. Hongo wanted to break that rule just for me. The old man slammed his hands down, furious that the head monk was being so stubborn. Huang Yun was trapped. He knew Hongo was a wild card who loved to cause trouble. Back in the day, Hongo was basically a menace who ignored the rules whenever he felt like it. After a heavy sigh, the head monk finally caved and offered a compromise. He agreed to lift the ban for just 4 hours a day, keeping the ancestors happy while giving Hongo what he wanted. Hongo instantly lit up like he just won the lottery. Go Eun-young just watched the whole exchange in pure disbelief. The head monk quickly chanted a prayer, probably asking Buddha for some aspirin. Hongo walked out with a massive grin, extremely pleased with his victory. Meanwhile, back in my neck of the woods, Master Jangmuk and I were taking a quiet dawn stroll. He noticed my footwork had leveled up again. I was basically gliding over the dirt. He couldn't figure out why I wasn't freezing in the cold morning wind. A soft sliding sound echoed as my feet barely touched the ground. He asked why I was grinning like a fool. I casually mentioned that I absorbed the most chi early in the morning compared to the rest of the day. His eyes practically bugged out of his skull. He thought I was just picking fruits all day. I explained that while sitting down is great, I can still pull in energy while folding blankets or sweeping the yard. He asked if I was constantly maintaining my breathing technique. I hit him with a simple question back, asking if he didn't do the same. Apparently, normal people need intense focus to store energy without losing it. Storing chi while doing daily chores was supposed to be completely impossible. But hey, I just really hate being hungry. He completely lost it, yelling that chi requires crazy precision and I can't just gulp it down like a cheap energy drink. I just stared at him. I hadn't formally learned any of the stuff, so how was I supposed to know? He immediately realized he slipped up. He tried to backpedal, lecturing me that trying to absorb energy all day wouldn't yield real results anyway. I told him I didn't care because I was already doing it. He looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He warned me that clumsily stacking up energy would lead to chi deviation. Little did he know, my body was already a ticking time bomb.